Yes, my people, as the hot, it don't happen, no. Exposed. Yes, now. They don't expose the plan of disqualifying Peter Obi in 2027 presidential election. In where many Nigerians don't draw our attention to this particular topic. Please, as you are watching this video, please kindly hit this like button, share this video. This video is from Refresh Nigeria. Watch, share, and drop your thoughts in the comment section.
There is a plan to disqualify Peter Obi from contesting the 2027 presidential elections in Nigeria. We need to know, how did they come about this plan? What roles does the Supreme Court of Nigeria, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and Julius Abure, the controverted Labour Party chairman, what roles do they have to play in this plan to disqualify Peter Obi? And then we'll look at what the way forward is for Peter Obi so that the plan to take back Nigeria is not jeopardized. You're watching Ugaga Theory, and this is your #1 Politox program, where we give you perspectives that helps you to detox from the toxins that have been forced into your system that have cost you bad governance-induced depression that many of you don't know about. But not to worry, Ugaga Theory is here to the rescue, helping you detox and giving you clear direction on what to do to save this country and to make sure that it works for all Nigerians. Let's not forget the fact that we have our Project Eagles going on. Project Eagles is a 7-step safeguard to ensure that the 2027 election is truly transparent, free, and fair. You can participate in Project Eagles. Details are in the description. And let's get to the meat of today's video. What is this plan to disqualify Peter Obi from contesting the 2027 elections? What is it? How did we get our hands on this plan? Who are those involved in this plan? And what can we do to make sure that the plan that is already failing, because the plan is already failing, what can we do to make sure that it completely and totally fails, such that come 2027, Peter Obi does not only run, but that he is guaranteed to win? Because we need a new Nigeria that works for all Nigerians. What is this plan? How many of you remember the Supreme Court ruling on the situation in Labour Party? Is it possible that the Supreme Court deliberately made that ruling to be ambiguous? Because the ruling now has been interpreted right, left, and center. Senator Nenadi Usman-led caretaker committee is interpreting it, including Peter Obi, including Alex Otti, to mean that the Supreme Court sacked Julius Abure. Abure, on the other hand, is interpreting it otherwise. And INEC is still studying the situation. Is it possible that the Supreme Court deliberately made that ruling to be ambiguous, such that it can be weaponized by any of the parties involved? We'll take a look at this and give you an answer very, very, very shortly. But first, let us take a look at INEC. What role does INEC have to play in this plan to disqualify Peter Obi from contesting Nigeria's 2027 presidential election? Before the Supreme Court ruling against Julius Abure, depending on where you're standing, INEC has come out to say that the only reason Abure's name is on their website as the recognized chairman of Labour Party is because of court judgment. So, question: if that statement is true, why is it that INEC is taking so long to remove or interpret the Supreme Court judgment in such a way that it removes Abure and recognizes Senator Nenadi Usman-led caretaker committee, or at the least, based on the consent judgment, which INEC is very much part of, call for an all-inclusive Congress such that the Labour Party can be put right back on track. Why has INEC not done this? Okay? Before we answer that, here's another question. Even though it is very clear to Julius Abure that the odds are stacked against him, even though it is very clear that the majority of the members of the Labour Party do not want him to continue as chairman, Abure is still holding on, vowing to fight to finish. What is motivating him to do this? Look at these three key players and then put one and one together, and then cast your minds back to what happened in Zamfara way back in 2015 and 2019, even 2023. You remember the tussle for the soul of APC in Zamfara state between then Governor Yari and then Senator Marafa? They've battled and battled like Julius Abure is battling now, until at the end of the day, the Supreme Court disqualified both camps and APC was shortchanged, disqualified from the governorship, the senatorial, the House of Rep. All their candidates disqualified. Now, if you think that what happened in Zamfara was just a one-off incident, the same thing repeated itself in Rivers State when then Governor Rotimi Amechi was battling Magnus Abi. Remember? At the end of the day, both camps were disqualified. They lost out completely, and that paved the way easily for Wike to become governor. Now, take these two together. They say if something happens once, it's an accident. If it happens once, say it's a coincidence. But when it happens a third time, then you know that, it has become a pattern. Is it possible that the Supreme Court ruling was deliberately ambiguous, such that it can be weaponized by any of the parties involved? Because if you take a second look at the same Supreme Court ruling against Fubara, it was deliberately also, could it also have been that it was deliberately made ambiguous so that it can be weaponized by either parties, the Fubara party, the Wike party, and even the Tinubu party, which has led to a declared state of emergency that many considered to be illegal, but ratified by the National Assembly, which included opposition politicians that you would have expected to stop. It's the same thing playing out here. Here is the kicker, the trick, the dangerous thing. The same thing is happening. Despite knowing that he doesn't have legitimate grounds to stand, he is still vowing to fight on. I'm talking about Julius Abure now. At the end of the day, INEC that could have taken decisive action but is delaying, Supreme Court that could have made its ruling very clear but made it, I don't know, maybe deliberately ambiguous, would then rule and disqualify both parties and say, oh, there's division in there. If they did the same ruling in Zamfara for APC that is ruling, they did the same thing in Rivers for APC that is ruling, what legal grounds can you, Labour Party, possibly stand on when they do the same thing to you, thereby leaving Peter Obi disqualified from running in the 2027 presidential election? What can Peter Obi do right now in order to safely navigate these political legal landmines that have been laid on his path? It is either a miracle happens and Julius Abure encounters Jesus on his way to Damascus and becomes born again and changes his mind and deliberately gives up this fight and says, okay, fine, Senator Nenadi Usman's led caretaker committee take over control. Let us do things right. Let us have an all-inclusive Congress per the consent judgment. Unless that happens, the only other option is for Peter Obi to look for another political party. If not, we'll be here. 2027 will come. You'll be disqualified, and the precedents and antecedents will be there. And all we can do is cry, cry, cry. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. I do not want to be here on social media crying. So what we have been forewarned about, we can avoid. Let us avoid this one. So it's either that miracle happens, or the second option is for Peter Obi to come and join us. And then let's form this up. Let's grow this abundance party. Let's make it a party for Nigerians. There are reasons why Nigerians should join us on Abundance Party. You can get details in the description. But right now, let's cast your mind back to Project Eagles. If you're not a member or you're not a volunteer yet, descriptions or details are in the description. Let me know, what is your thoughts about this plan to disqualify Peter Obi from contesting in 2027? And what is your solution? Perhaps your solution could be better than the solution that we have provided here. Let us have this conversation and let us take decisive actions now to prevent it from happening, so that we don't just go ranting and crying uselessly after the deed has been done. Next, we'll talk about the 7-step safeguard to prevent rigging in 2027. We call it Project Eagle. It is a video that you want to watch.